Here we are. And guys, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Y'all can see what it is I'm looking at. And all I did here, guys, is I just kind of scrolled down to find the notes for chapter 10. And so these are the notes for chapter 10. So it's like 10.1 is percent. So I have all this kind of stuff here for you guys. I'm going to check something real quick. Like I just want to see something before I get started. Let's see. Here we go. And let's go. Let's see. So, all right. So guys, I see right now that both of you all have already done 10.1. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go over 10.1 because y'all are here and y'all already did 10.1. So let me bypass all this. Okay, and then I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll start with 10.2, and if we can do some 10.2 and 10.3 stuff, that'll be perfect. And guys, at any point in time, if I'm doing something here and it doesn't make sense, just let me know. Let's see, we got somebody else coming in here too. Pedro is here as well. Excellent. Glad you're here, Pedro. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with 10.2. And let's see. So let me get my pen going here, guys, so y'all can see. Let me see if I can work this. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. So 10.2 talks about personal loans and simple interest. And it says the money the bank or the lender is willing to lend you is called the credit extended or the principal of the loan. We usually call it the principal, and the problems we're going to be doing it, we're going to call it the principal, okay? Security or collateral is anything of value pledged by the borrower that the lender may sell or keep if the borrower doesn't repay the loan. Sometimes banks will lend money to people without security, but they require a cosigner. So guys, I'm just going to give you a little free piece of advice. Never cosign for anybody, okay? Cosigner just means that if somebody wants to go get a loan and they don't have any collateral, their credit isn't great, then you're willing to vouch for them. And if they don't pay the loan, then the bank comes to you because you're the one that said, oh yeah, they're good, and then they get the money from you. So it's never a good deal. Just don't do it. It's not good. Let's see. Personal note states the terms and conditions of loan. Interest is the money the borrower pays for the use of the lender's money. And simple interest is based on the entire amount of the loan for the period of the loan. So we have a simple interest formula right here, guys, and it's a pretty straightforward formula. It's just principal times rate times time, okay? Typically, the time is I'm just going to make this up, is in years, okay? Not all the time, but it's typically in years. And the reason why it's typically in years is because the rate is usually what we call the annual interest rate, okay? So when we have the rate being the annual interest rate, then we want the time to be in years. So I'm going to show you how we're going to go through some of these problems here. Okay, so I'm going to kind of scroll down a little bit here. Let's see. And I'm going to kind of go over this part right here, okay? And it says the most common type of simple interest is what we call ordinary interest. And when we're using ordinary interest, we use something called the banker's rule. And it says that a month has 30 days, a year has 12 months, so a year is going to have 360 days. I know a year has 365, right? A little bit more. That's when we got the leap year and whatnot. But for the banker's rule, they always go with 360, okay? And then it tells you if it's something like if it's given to us in months, then we're going to write the time as whatever number of months over 12 because there's 12 months in a year. And if they give us the time in days, then we're going to write the days over 360, okay? So I know it's usually 365, but for the problems that we have in our textbook, we're going to use 360, okay? So let's take a look at the first problem that I got here. And it says, Sherry needs to borrow $6,200 to replace the roof on her home. from her credit union. She obtains a 30-month loan with an annual simple interest rate of 5.75%. So the first part says, calculate the simple interest that she is charged on the loan. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, guys, because we're looking for the simple interest, for part A, I'm going to write down the formula. And it's I equals P times R times T. And remember what we said about the R? It's going to be the annual interest rate, right? And so if you notice right here with an annual simple interest rate of 5.75%. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can do this problem. So we're going to say I. First thing is P. P stands for the principal. The principal is the amount of money that we're going to borrow. So in this case, Sherry's going to borrow $6,200, okay, times our interest rate. Now, our interest rate is given to us as a percent. What we want to do is we want to write that percent as a decimal. And if you all remember, those of you who've already kind of looked through some of the stuff in 10.1, the way we change a percent to a decimal is we're going to move the decimal point 2 spaces to the left. So I'm going to put 0.0575. Okay. And then we're going to do this for our time period, right? And our time period here is 30 months. So I'm going to write that 30 on as 30 over 12 because there's 12 months in a year. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. And guys, I'm going to share my calculator with you guys so you can see exactly how I'm going to do this on my calculator. So give me one quick second. And let's see, let me get my calculator going. Oh, so here we go. And share this and my calculator. So guys, I'm using my this calculator because this is what I have on my work laptop. But if you notice, and I had sent this to you last week, I use that calculator app quite a bit, and it works exactly the same way. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take 6,200, okay, times 0.0575, okay, times, and then if you notice our time was 30 over 12. So I'm just going to put 30 divided by 12. And I'm going to hit enter. And so the number I'm coming up with is $891.25. So it's $891.25. Let me stop sharing this and let me come back to my notes. Here we go. Okay, and we came up with $891.25. So this is just the interest, right? This is just the amount of money that Sherry's going to have to pay the bank so that she can get that $6,200. Okay, now there is a part B to this problem. So part B now says calculate the amount, principal plus interest, that Sherry's going to pay the credit union at the end of the 30 months to pay off her loan. Okay, so look what it tells me. It tells me right here, principal plus interest. So we already knew that our principal was $6,200, and now I'm just going to add $891.25 because that was our interest. And so, guys, I'm just going to do this on my calculator real quick. 6,200 plus 891.25. And let me see, I'm coming up with 7,091. Oops, 0.25. And I think I heard something in the chat. Maybe y'all were telling me the answer. Let's see. Yep, that's so net, you got an extra zero in there, right? So 7,091.25. But yes, I think you just probably hit the zero twice. But I agree with you, 100%. Excellent. Okay, so look, let's go ahead and try the next one. And again, I'm just going to kind of do the same idea here, y'all. So if I look at the next problem here, it says Philip agrees to lend $850 to Joe to help Joe travel to Cincinnati to attend a family wedding. 9 months later, Joe paid the original $850 plus $50 in interest. What annual rate of interest did Joe pay to Philip? Okay, so guys, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to write down my formula. I equals P times R times T. Okay, and now all we're going to do, we're going to kind of fill in the blanks. So look, this 850, that's the principal. So I'm going to write that right here. Okay, and then let's see, 9 months later, that's going to be my time. So my time is going to be 9 over 12, right? Because it's for a whole year, but it only took them nine months to pay it off. The second thing we have is we have $51. That's my interest. So I'm going to put that over here underneath the letter I. What we're trying to figure out is what is the annual rate. So this is the part that we don't know just yet. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this part on my calculator. I'm going to take 850 times 9, and then I'm going to divide it by 12. So let me, again, just show you what I'm doing here on my calculator. So let's see. Come back here. Okay. And let me clear my screen. So we said we're going to take 850 times 9, and we're going to divide that by 12. Okay, so I'm coming up with 637.5. All righty. Let me come back to the notes. Okay. So when we multiply those numbers, we got 637.5 with the letter R. Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to solve for the letter R. We want to get the letter R by itself. And right now, what's happening, y'all, is it's being multiplied. So we're going to do the opposite of multiplying, which is to divide. Okay. So these 637.5s are going to cancel out. And then all I'm going to do, y'all, is I'm just going to take my calculator real quick, and I'm going to do this calculation. So I'm going to say, what's 51 divided by 637.5? And let me make this into a decimal. And I'm coming up with 0.08. And it may ask you, so this is my answer as a decimal, y'all. But in case it asks you to write it as a percent, that would just be 8%, right? Okay, perfect. All right. So let's take a look at the next problem. It's real similar, but I don't know why. I always enjoy doing this problem here, so I'm going to go ahead and do it with you all. And so the problem here says, let's see, let me just kind of clean up some of this mess. And let's see, it says, to obtain money for his new glasses, Gilbert decides to pawn his trumpet. Gilbert borrows $240 and after 30 days gets his trumpet back by paying the pawnbroker $288. What annual rate of interest did Gilbert pay? Okay, so this is just like the problem we did. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to write down my formula, right? Okay, so let's see if we can find some pieces of information. The principal, the amount of money that Gilbert borrowed, we know that's $240. Okay, we need to find the interest. Now, guys, notice what happened. They gave him $240, and he paid back a total of $288. So the interest is going to be how much extra did he pay? So we can take $288 minus $240, and that's going to give me $48. That's his interest rate, right? And his time frame was 30 days. But it's 30 days out of 360 because, and the reason why I know it's out of 360, y'all, I'm going to kind of clean some of this mess up, is because the question again is asking me what is his annual rate of interest. So I have to think about this in terms of a year, okay? So let's go ahead and plug our numbers in. So under the interest, I'm going to put 48 equals 240 times R times 30 over 360. And just like we did earlier, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and take my 240 times 30 and divide it by 360. So let me stop sharing this. And let me share my calculator with you guys so you can see what it is I'm doing. Okay. All right, so let me clear this out. So I'm going to take 240 times 30 equals divided by 360. Okay, and I'm coming up with 20, okay? So let me stop sharing this, and let's come back to our notes. Okay. And so we ended up with, let's see, 20R, and now we need to divide both sides by 20. So again, I'm just going to do this on my calculator. 48 divided by 20 is something like 2.4. So R equals 2.4. Now remember, when we did this problem up here, look at the number we came up with, right? We came up with 0.08. And the way we came up with 0.08 was we divided everything here by 63 or 637.5, right? I erased it earlier. And we came up with this 0.08. And then we had to change it to a percent. And so we moved our decimal 2 spaces over. So I'm going to do the same thing here. If I move my decimal 2 spaces over as a percent, y'all, that is 240%. Okay, so I want you to think about that annual interest rate. 240%, right? That's a massive interest rate. And you might say, well, look, you only have to pay $48. That's right, it was only $48, but that was $48 for 30 days, right? Suppose it was going to take him a year to pay this off, right? If it was going to take him a year to pay this off, so what I would then do, get my pen going, sometimes it freezes on me, y'all. Oops. So if I were to think about this in terms of a year, how much money did they give him? They gave him $240, right? As a decimal, this is 2.4, and suppose we said it's going to take him a year to pay this off. So if I were to take my calculator and I take 240 times 2.4, that would give me 576. This is just the interest. That would just be the interest in 1 year. So like the way we did that problem earlier about Sherry, who was borrowing money to pay her roof and that kind of stuff, and she was going to pay the bank back, the amount of money that, Gilbert would be paying back would have been the 240 that he borrowed plus the 576. And so he would be paying back $816 in a year, right? Look at that 576. That's such a big number in your interest rate, right? Because of that 240%. So I know pawn shops are not really a big thing anymore. Like, I don't know how many people go to pawn shops, but when I was in college, pawn shops were the big deal. Now people do like title loans and all that kind of stuff. But again, the idea here, guys, don't go to those people, right? Anybody who's charging you an interest rate like that, it's just, it's just like way, way, way too much. All righty. So let's take a look at the next couple of problems. These problems here, y'all, they're just finding the simple interest, right? And so when you're doing problems like this, all you're really going to do is just use your calculator, okay? So look, we're going to type in 6742.75. Make sure that you change your percents to decimals, so 0.0605. Now, if it tells me 90 days, remember, I got to write my 90 over 360, right? And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my calculator, 6742.75 times 0.0605 times 90 divided by 360, and it's asked me to round to the nearest cent. So on my calculator, y'all, what I came up with was like 101.98409, all that kind of stuff, right? And if I'm going to round to the nearest cent, remember the cent is going to be my second decimal place, right? So I'm going to write 101.98. Let's see. Before I go on, let me ask you all a question. Is this making any sense? Because I just went through like 6 problems, and I want to make sure that we're good before I do anything else. Robert, we're good? Gabrielle, we're good? Awesome. Okay. Makes some sense? Excellent. Okay. I just want to make sure that you guys feel okay with this stuff here. So guys, I'll tell you what. The second problem, the 2500, I'm not actually going to do the entire calculation because I know you all know how to use your calculator. I just want to set it up for you guys, okay? And the reason I want to do that is, before COVID hit and I was teaching this class in person, sometimes when people see the 3 7/8, that throws them off. So I just want to make sure that you guys are okay, right? All right, so here's my formula. And so the principal, we already know that's 2500. So what I'm going to do here, y'all, 3 7/8. I'm going to do this over here on the side. So 3 7/8. Let's change this first to an improper fraction. Okay. Remember how we do that. We're going to take 8 times 3 is 24, and 24 plus 7 is 31 over 8. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 31 over 8, and I'm going to convert that to a decimal. And that is giving me 3.875. Now, this is still my percent. So 3.875%, if I was going to write that to a decimal, that would be 0.03875. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll back over here, and I'm going to say that's 0.03875. Now again, look at my time. My time is in months, so I'm going to write this as 9 over 12, and then we're good to go. Okay, and all you got to do is just like the way we've been doing the other problems. But I just want to make sure that everybody's okay with that. Let's take a look here. So for the next 2 problems, or the next 3 problems, it's asking us to find the missing variable. So let me go ahead and set some of these up. So remember, my formula is I equals P times R times T. Okay. And so here we know our P is 1725. We don't know the value of R. We know our time is 3 years, so I'm just going to write 3. And they actually gave me a value for the interest, which was $82.80. So just like we did earlier, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and multiply these 2 numbers together. So 1725 times 3 is 5175 with the letter R. And then all we need to do, y'all, now is just divide. So let's take $82.80 and let's divide it by 5175. And as a decimal, what I'm coming up with is 0.016. So that just means as a percent, it would be 1.6%, right? And in essence, y'all, that's all it is I'm trying to do here with these problems. I'm just trying to find the piece that's missing, okay? So let's see. Let me go ahead and do this next one. I just want to. I'll do one more, and then we'll kind of skip to something different. Okay. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. Interest equals principal times rate times time. We know our interest is 175. We don't know the principal. The interest rate is 6%, which is 0.06. My time here, y'all, is 5 months, so I got to make sure that I write it as 5 over 12. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and multiply this piece together. So on my calculator, I'm just doing 0.06 times 5 divided by 12. And as a decimal, I am coming up with 0.025 times P. So remember, because I'm trying to solve for P and it's being multiplied, I need to do the opposite, which is to divide. So I'll take my calculator, 175 divided by 0.025. And for my principal, y'all, I just came up with 7,000. Okay. All right. So guys, I'm going to kind of skip this one here. I'll let y'all do that one there. But I am going to go through a little bit of compound interest. Compound interest, guys, the formula is a little bit more complicated, but it really is a calculator type problem, guys. So let me go ahead and show you. I'm going to show you by doing a couple of problems here how we can find the compound interest. Okay, so first off, the difference between simple interest and compound interest is in compound interest, we have certain things called compounding periods, meaning that the interest starts to accumulate multiple times a year. Usually it's multiple times a year, which means that we start accumulating interest every month, or twice a year, or every 3 months, which is called quarterly, that kind of thing. Okay. And so here the problem says, Kathy invested $3,000 in a savings account with an interest rate of 1.8 compounded, 1.8% compounded monthly. If Kathy makes no other deposits into this account, determine the amount into the savings account after 2 years. All right, so let's see if we can't figure this out. First thing we're going to do in my interest formula, okay, A is going to give me the total amount, meaning how much money we put in plus the interest, okay? P is still the principal of the loan, the amount of money that we either invest or we borrow. R is still our interest rate. N is the number of compounding periods. And T is going to be our time. And for these here, guys, for 10.3, you don't have to worry about, like, is it going to be so many days? Is it going to be so many months? It's always going to be in years, okay? All right, so let's see if we can't figure out this problem that we have here. So Kathy invested $3,000 in savings. So that's the first part. That's our principal, okay? And our interest rate is 1.8%. So as a decimal, that's 0.018. And then it says compounded monthly. So N is the number of times in a year. So if it's monthly, it's going to be 12. And then it says if Kathy makes no other deposits into the account, determine the amount in the savings account after 2 years. So my T here is going to be equal to 2. Guys, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take these values and I'm going to plug them directly into the formula. Okay? So look, the first part says P. So we're going to write 3,000. 1 plus. The second part is R. Let me see. I heard something in the chat box. Double check. How do I get N? Okay, good question. So N is the number of compounding periods. And so, Robert, if you notice right here, it says it's being compounded monthly, right? So how many months in a year? That would be 12. Okay. Let's see. Let me come back real quick because I'm looking at my notes as I'm doing this here, so I kind of go back. Okay, good. I'm glad it makes sense. And we're going to do a few of these guys, so you can figure out how do I find my N. Okay, and it's just going to be reading through it, but you'll be able to determine it. Okay, so the next piece here, y'all, is my R. So my R is 0.018 divided by the number N, which we said here was 12. And then raised to the power, look, it's N times T. So I'm going to take 12 times 2. Okay. Now, guys, this right here, I'm going to do this on my calculator, and I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do that. So give me one quick second. I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to pull up my calculator so you guys can see this. And like I said, what I really want to point out is exactly what I see on the screen, the way I had it written, is exactly what I'm going to type out here. So I'm going to clear my screen. The first thing we had was the number 3,000, right? And then we had parentheses, but I know just to kind of give you a heads up, parentheses really means we're going to have a multiplication sign there, right? So then I'm going to put my parentheses, and we had 1 plus 0.018 divided by, oops, that's not divided by 12, okay? We closed our parentheses, and then we had a power. And do you remember our power? It was in parentheses, and it was N times T. And we had 12 times 2. Because I want to say it was 2 years. I think it was 2 years. Yes, 2 years. Okay, and so now all I'm going to do is hit enter, and there's my answer. And it comes out directly right here. Now, guys, remember, we're talking about money. So since we're talking about money, I want to go to 2 decimal places. So my answer here is going to be 3109.88. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to come back to my notes. And the answer we came up with was 3109.88. So right here, I'm going to say, oops. A is 3109.88. And all I really got to do is what I see right here, type that into my calculator app exactly as it appears, okay? So look, let's try the next one. We're going to go about it exactly the same way. So first thing I need to do, y'all, is I need to find some pieces of information, okay? And these are the pieces that I need to know. So first thing is, anybody know what the principal of this loan is going to be? Just by looking at the problem, the way it's written, anyone know what the principal is? The P, the amount of money we're going to borrow, or the amount of money we're investing, 3,000. Perfect, you got it. Excellent. So right here, y'all, I'm going to put 3,000. Okay. Okay, anybody know, how do I write 4% as a decimal? 4% as a decimal would be, let's see, 0.04, right? So that's too many zeros, but I see what you're getting. There you go. Perfect, you got it. Let's see, excellent, 0.04. Okay, now guys, I want you to look at this next part here. I'm going to underline it in red, or I'll box it in. Compounded semi-annually. So I want you to think about the word semi. You're good, don't worry, you don't need to apologize. Think about the word semi-annually. If it's, semi means half, right? So if it's going to be, we're going to compound it half a year and then another half year, that's going to give me the full year. How many times did we compound it in that 1 year? If we did it, say, after the first 6 months and then again after the second 6 months, right? Because semi means we're going to go halfway. So how many times would you say we compounded it in 1 year? If we did it after 6 months and then after another 6 months, anyone know? Okay, think about it. How many? But hold on. Remember, it's how many times we're compounding it, right? So let's put this. Let's make it up this way. New Year's Day. There you go, Gabriella. You got it. It's New Year's Day. We put our money in the bank. 6 months later, on June 1st, they accumulate our interest. And then on New Year's Eve the next year, they accumulate the interest again because it's semi-annually. So it's going to happen twice a year. So our N here is going to be 2. Perfect. Very good. Our N here is going to be 2. And then our time, guys, it tells us right here, is just 7. Okay. So now all I'm going to do, y'all, is I'm going to write down my formula. And we're going to just fill in the blanks, right? So the first thing we said is 3,000. Okay, guys, you can do this if you find it helpful. Put a little X, a little times, just so you know that when you do this on your calculator, that's exactly what you're doing. 1 plus our interest rate was 0.04 divided by our N, which in this case was 2, raised to the power 2 times 7. And then now, y'all, all I'm going to do is type this exactly as I see it on my calculator. So let me stop sharing this and let me pull up the calculator so you all can see what it is I'm doing. Let's see, here we go. Perfect. Okay, so we had 3,000 times, parentheses, we had 1 plus 0.04 divided by 2, close up parentheses, raised to the power, and then we had 2 times 7, right? And then we close that off, and that's exactly as we had it written on our paper. And then we're going to hit enter. And so the number we're coming up with here is 3958.436. Now remember, because we're dealing with money, we're going to round to the nearest penny. So guys, because that's a 6, I'm going to round this up to 44 cents, right? So 3958.44. So let me share that with you guys. And so we have 3958.44, okay? Now, first thing I'm going to do before I go on to the next problem, I want us to look at the problem what it was asking me to do. It was actually asking me only to find the interest. So this number that we came up with, this is the total amount after the 7 years. But remember, we put $3,000 in there. So 3,000 of that is how much money we already had. So to find our interest, we're going to take 3958.44 minus the 3,000 that we put in. And so what we really made in interest was the 958.44. That's what we made. Okay. All right, good deal. You guys are doing great. This is really good. So guys, the next formula we have here is called the present value formula. So the difference between the compound interest formula and the present value formula. The compound interest formula tells me if I have so much money, right, however much it's going to be, $5,000, $200, $15,000, how much money am I going to end up with in the future, right? How much money will I get in the future if this is my interest rate and this is how many times I'm compounding a year and this is the number of years? What the present value formula tells me is I want to have so much money in the future. And if I want to have so much money in the future, and this is going to be my interest rate, and this is going to be my compounding periods, and this is going to be my time in years, if I want to end up with, say, $200,000, how much money would I have to put in the bank today so that I'll have $2,000 or $200,000 in so much time, right? So this is where the present value formula comes into play. Okay, and so this problem here says, Will would like his daughter to attend college in 6 years when she finishes high school. Will would like to invest enough money in a certificate of deposit called a CD now to pay for his daughter's college expenses. If Will estimates that he's going to need $30,000 in 6 years, how much should Will invest now in a CD that has a rate of 2.5% compounded quarterly? Okay. So the difference in these problems, like I said, guys, we're trying to figure out how much is he going to invest now. So we're looking for the principal, okay? So A is going to be the amount. P is still the principal. The letters still mean the same thing, right? R is still our rate. N is our number of compounding periods, and T is our time. Okay, so let's take a look here. Let's see. This is how much money he wants to have. So that's going to be my A. Okay. Let's see. My interest rate, 2.5%. So guys, remember, as a decimal, 0.025. Now, let me ask you a question. Compounded quarterly. What do you think my N would be if it's going to be compounded quarterly? Anyone know? Anybody got a guess for compounded quarterly? Think, see, yeah. Yep, you got it. 4, right? So, oops, sorry about that, guys. Okay, here we go. So my N here is going to be, my N is going to be 4, and our T is, let's see, how many years was it? 6 years, right? So T was 6. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, 1 second here. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and plug and chug into our formula. So P equals, what we have here, we have A, so we're going to put 30,000, okay? And then 1 plus 0.025 over 4, all raised to the power n times t, so this is 4 times 6. Okay? All right, so guys, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this exactly the same way on my calculator, okay? So let me stop sharing this, and let's see, let's go back to our calculator, and let's see, here we go. All right, and let me turn this on, let me clear my screen. So guys, remember the number we had was 30,000, right? So 30,000, and then it's in a fraction, right? So fraction means we're going to divide. So I'm going to hit divided by, I'm going to do my parentheses, 1 plus 0.0, what was our interest rate? 25%. So 0.025. Where's my calculator? 0.025 divided by 4. Okay. And then my power was being raised to the power 4 times 6. Okay. Now, when I hit enter here, this is going to tell us the amount of money that Will needs to put in the bank today. So then 6 years, he's going to have those 30,000. And so we're coming up with $25,833. And again, y'all, if we're going to round to the nearest penny, it should be 30 cents because after the 9, we got a 5, right? So 25,833.30. So let me stop sharing this. And let me share my other screen with you guys. And so 25,833.30. So the one thing I really want to emphasize, guys, about these problems is these problems are strictly calculator type problems, right? If you can type in exactly as you see it, you're going to be just fine, all right? So I'll tell you what, I'll set the second one up for you here, and then I'll ask you guys if y'all have any questions about anything, and then we can go ahead and just call it a day. So let's see. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just write down my formula, okay? P equals A, 1 plus R over N to the power N times T. Okay, and so guys, I'm just going to ask y'all a couple of questions just to make sure that we're good here. So does anybody know what's the A amount in this problem? How much money do we want to end up with? Anyone know? What's the amount that we're hoping to get? 45,000. Perfect. Okay. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to go ahead and fill in the blanks. 45,000. Okay. 1 plus, let's see. Our interest rate is 3.6%. Anyone know how would I write that percent as a decimal? What about 3.6% as a decimal? Anyone know? There you go, 0.036, perfect, you got it. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that in here, 0.036. Okay, so check this out, compounded monthly. Okay, so we have compounded monthly. What do you think our N is? If it's every month, how many months in a year? There you go, you got it, perfect. All right, so N is going to be 12. Oops. This is 12. And then our power is going to be 12 times 10. And that doesn't look like a 12, so let me fix that here. And then all you got to do, guys, is just enter that into the calculator, and you'll find that amount, okay? So you can see here, again, for the next one, compounded quarterly, 4 times a year, right? And then the next of these problems, guys, a lot of them are just kind of random problems. You're either going to figure out, is it a compound interest problem, or is it a present value type problem, right? And so the way you figure that out is if it's asking you how much money do you have to put in today, right, then it's going to be a present value problem, okay? So let me ask you all a question. How do you guys feel so far? How do you all feel about 10.2, 10.3? Well, got any questions I want to ask you about anything? Little practice. Yeah, it takes a little bit to do. Okay. Yeah, so guys, look, remember, this stuff here from chapter 10, it's due a week from tomorrow. It's not even due tomorrow, right? It's due the following Tuesday, okay? So y'all have plenty of time. And I want to say this week, y'all, Sweet. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop sharing this real quick. And let me show my camera. Okay. So the stuff you don't have, like this stuff that I was going over, I know those of you who are here, both of y'all had already done 10.1. So we really only have 3 sections to do this week, right? You've got 10.2, 10.3, and 10.5, and then there's the review for the midterm and all that kind of stuff, right? And I'm going to provide you guys with a formula sheet for the review for the midterm, okay? And I'll send that out later on this week. But so you really only have the 3 other sections and then the quiz and the review, okay? So guys, we got plenty of time, okay? In the meantime, if y'all have questions about anything, send me messages, right? I know I sent out a video earlier today. Send me something, I can do a video for you guys or remind. If you guys need some like one-on-one time like what we're doing here later in the week, let me know and we can set something up, okay? So guys, why don't we go ahead and call it a day there? I do have another class that's going to start in a few minutes. So if y'all don't have any other questions, I'll give you all some time to kind of work through this here. And, you know, if you got questions in the meantime, just let me know. I'm happy to help. I'm glad you guys were able to come in tonight. And, you know, don't be shy, guys. Don't be afraid to ask me questions because I'm happy to help, okay? So if you all don't have any questions, then let me go ahead and stop recording.